So welcome to Graphic Design 2. In this class, we focus on marrying type and image and layout. Your design is different for, you design for different media and analyze different methods of presenting information for maximum effectiveness and clear communications. Each project will expose you to different ways of reaching a target audience. You will discover that the process of selecting media is not arbitrary. Each medium represents a different method of locating and informing a particular audience with their comfort zone. Your challenge as a designer will be to design eye-catching, informative materials that educate, promote, or increase awareness of specific products or services using traditional principles and elements of design and typography. Graphic design is often an exercise in organizing information and showing readers what you want them to read first, second, and third. Typography, color, composition, and style play large roles in establishing that hierarchy. In this class, you'll be pushed to explore various layouts, color schemes, and typefaces to determine which best present to your message. Aesthetics will be secondary to communication, since graphic designers are in the business of solving problems in creative ways. However, you'll also pay careful attention to visual execution in terms of graphics, photography, and illustration. Often, a strong concept can be expressed in many different ways, but only one way makes it sing. A graphic designer is a creative problem solver who uses images, words, and ideas to convey the information. Graphic design is an art form, is everywhere, and underappreciated by all except those who do it well. Graphic design is rarely noticed by society. The work of designers can almost be considered a public service since it digests volumes of materials, distills it to essential, and then organizes it, makes it content-rich, and translates it into something viewers want to read. Graphic designers are visual interpreters of the world around them and stand at the forefront of communication. It's their job to communicate specific information to specific audiences in creative and innovative ways that attract attention, inspire, and motivate. This is usually done by combining imagery and words into a unified whole that both respects the content and informs the reader. This is no small challenge, as you'll see in this course, since there are very few fixed rules. Graphic design encompasses print, advertising, brochures, corporate identity, web, exhibit, and trade show design, publication design, newspapers, books, maps, packaging, sales promotion, information design, signage, multimedia design, film and television graphics, and more. Graphic design's common visual language encompasses traditional art elements such as line, shape, form, texture, color, value, composition, volume, mass, and space, which combine to create balance, unity, harmony, contrast, rhythm, and tension. Design trends come and go and are generally defined by the era they came from, but good graphic design never goes out of style. In the past 50 years, graphic design has evolved from the Bauhaus style, form follows function, to the psychedelic styles of the postmodern and Swiss design styles. As cultures evolve, the visual vocabulary changes with them and creating bodies of work indicative of the time. Since graphic design is a reflection of culture, excuse me, typography, style, and ornament are visual components of each culture's iconography. I'm sorry, that messed up that word terribly. Iconography. I'm just going to struggle with it. Iconography. Maybe. Mastering that enables us to create distinctive designs outside our normal frames of reference, evocative of different moods, did I not just say this? Different countries, cultures, or world events. A graphic designer can make each communication seem retro, traditional, modern, or high-tech by using countless variation in his or her visual toolkit. The exterior of packaging of the message is somewhat independent. What you will experience in this course is how that external packaging of a message ultimately becomes part and parcel of the message itself. As Marshall Lujan said in 1960s, the medium is the message, and that is graphic design. Excuse me. I know I asked you all to read the design principles. I'm hoping you did it, but I'm going to go over just a few big ones. Balance. Balance refers to the visual weight. It can be defined in terms of symmetrical or asymmetrical construction. Try to think of it as equalized tension. If elements on a page are in balance with each other, then they appear as a single unified message. If they're out of balance, they appear as multiple disparate objects on a page. Balance creates harmony or a sense of completeness in a design through thoughtful composed distribution of objects, colors, textures, and space. If you can achieve balance by contrasting the size, shape, color, or texture of objects. For example, you can balance texture, space, and color with pattern. Contrast. Contrast is dynamic tension. Others may refer to it in discussion of proportion, dominance, or variety, since contrast can be achieved by varying degrees of any type of emphasis, such as color or value, or texture and size. It can compare one element to another, or one to the overall. Contrast is created through grouping elements, spacing, scale, type size, type style, and color. Contrast creates interest or tension, drawing the viewer's eye, and often calls attention to a specific point in the design. Unity. Unity refers to a feeling of wholeness or harmony in a design. Designers use conceptual and literal similarity, proximity, and repetition to create unity. Unity defines the relationship among individual parts to each other and the overall composition. Nothing should feel random or accidental or arbitrary in design. Each element should contribute to the cohesiveness of the whole. Without unity, a design becomes chaos. The cumulative perception of implied unity or movement within the overall whole is one of the Gestalt principles that you may have remembered from Graphic Design 1. The Gestalt principles wholly tell us that the mind tries to find its own solution to otherwise chaotic images. Our brain interprets and organizes the visual information into categories or groups. These groups are then compared and contrasted with each other to create a unique interpretation. Rhythm. Rhythm occurs when one or more elements create organized movement, generally through repetition. Visual rhythm can be smooth and flowing or purposefully jarring. Just as listening to a speaker who monotonely drones on is boring, a design that lacks rhythm makes it difficult for the reader to interpret what's important and what's not. Everything reads the same. Rhythm can be created from type, pattern, texture, or color. It can create drama or serenity. It can give the reader clues as to what the composition is about or where to look first. You can create rhythm by using a grid that allows the reader to sense and interpret hierarchy. Rhythm can also be created by breaking lines at natural pauses and to keep the reading and comprehension high. Visual hierarchy. Hierarchy refers to a system which a designer defines varying levels of information, enabling the reader to take in manageable amounts of information in a predefined order. An effective hierarchy gives readers a guided tour, directing them to see, read, and comprehend information in a deliberate manner. Poor hierarchy results in the readers turning the page annoyed at the confusion. Designers can create hierarchy by grouping elements, varying size and spacing, or using contrast, color, and dynamic tension to create several smaller compositions within the overall composition. Clear hierarchy becomes more difficult when dealing with multiple pages in a brochure or magazine. The designer must create hierarchy not only for each page, but also for each view the reader has. The hierarchy must walk the reader through the piece, page after page, each spread consistent and compatible with the whole. This is a delicate balancing act. Designers create visual management by ranking graphics and text in order of importance, and then applying design elements such as typography, composition, and color to clarify the message. Contrast between elements gives visual weight and dominance and clarifies where the viewer's eye should travel. By properly balancing multiple design elements, we can direct the eye in a focused stream, sequencing the composition. An imbalanced composition creates a visual noise. Just as a loud room makes it difficult to pick out one voice clearly, visual noise makes it hard to pick out what we need to see. Typography. Typography is an art form, and it can enhance design stylistically, or it can be made to perform invisibly, calling no attention to itself, allowing the message to be read quickly. Either way, ornamental or functional type is a part of the message as well as the carrier of information. Each font makes a slightly different impression on the reader. A good designer paints with type, varying color and texture and playing with letter forms to evoke emotion. As imagery, typography can be used creatively in projects limited by low budgets and lack of illustration or photography. Designers can accentuate information with type, be playful with it, design compositions around it, and even create images out of type. Type is the primary organizer of design. Consistent typographic style sheets determine hierarchy within the design and help the reader interpret the importance of various levels of content. Though the reader is not formally taught how to interpret this, they grasp the content quickly when confronted with it. Typography can be used to clarify what information on the page is most important, whether it is a paragraph on the page or a word in a sentence. When designers handle typography frivolously, it can confuse the reader and devalue the information. Trendy type handling can also date a piece quickly, which is why we attach certain typefaces with different periods of time. A legible typeface is designed for maximum readability. Readability of type depends on having sufficient contrast and size to allow the characters to be easily distinguished. Some faces are more decorative and are meant strictly for headlines, and some are simply better for text. Some only have one font in their family, while others have dozens. Here's some typography suggestions. Impact and other typefaces like it make a headline scream, but never use it for body copy. When layering or laying out quotes or bullet points, make the opening quotation mark or bullet hang to the left of the copy in the margin and align all the copy flush left. It makes for a much cleaner line, like we see over here on the left example. Attributions are easily recognized when placed on the next line of text after the quote, preceded by an em dash and combined with a smaller size type style. You don't have to do it this way, it is just tradition. Most applications set leading at 120% of the width of the column. This may not be wide enough for the comfortable reading, but it depends on the column measurement and type size. Often when using all caps, you're better served by tightening up the leading between lines. Using all caps makes each line of type read separately and distinctly from the others rather than a unit. Never, ever, ever, ever use all caps in a script or italic typeface. They weren't designed to be used that way, and they never look good. And lastly, we read by shapes of words. If you want your message to read quickly, capitalize the first word of the sentence and leave everything else lowercase. When you want to slow it down and make your layout feel formal, use initial caps on each word. If you want to really mess up readability but make the page prettier, go for all caps or large and small caps. They slow down readability dramatically, as all the words look like rectangles or squares to the eye, forcing the reader to look at the individual letters. Don't use all caps in body copy unless you want your readers not to read anything at all. So, thank